Hello, everyone, and apologies for the late start to today's meeting. Unfortunately, our original speaker had a personal emergency, so they could not make it. But what we have done is that we have found a very quick replacement. So what I will do, I will ask. His name is Shravan. So if you could please put up your hand, there is a lot of people in the call, so I need you to put up your hand, and then I can make you a presenter. Um, so thank you very much if you can do that. While we wait for that, I just want to remind everyone about the challenge survey. That we have. You should have gotten an email about it a couple of days ago. Don't forget to fill it in because the challenge is really a very interesting part of the whole school. It's really a great way for you to all interact with each other and for you to learn something new than just the lectures. It's a very active part of the school, so that's a really great part of it. So yeah, so don't forget to fill in the survey, and we will just very quickly wait for Shravan to join. And if Shravan, you are already in the call, please raise your hand, and then I can make you a presenter. He's only Shravan if I would ask that not everyone please raise their hand, only here we go. Hello, Shravan. Good to see you. Thank you very much for coming at this last minute.
So sorry about that.
Of course,
For
of
the
course.
delays. Yeah, hey everyone, myself Shravan. So let me share my screen.
So just while Shravan shares his screen, don't forget to put your Q&As in the top. We might have a bit of a shorter lecture today just because of time constraints. But I'm sure we can leave maybe 5 minutes towards the end for some
You can still see my screen.
for Q&A. Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect.
And in that case, Shravan, if you are ready, take it away. Thank you very much.
Cool. Okay. All right. Hey everyone. Thanks for joining. So in this session, I'll just try to cover as much as I can in interest of time. I'll not jump into my details and further things. Okay, let's without any further ado, I'll just let's start with automotive cybersecurity. So what is automotive? Let's start with cybersecurity basically. So what is cybersecurity and why cybersecurity is so important, right? So cybersecurity is just it's protecting the individuals or a company, or it's all about maintaining the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So let's say you're let's take example of, since it's we are talking about automotive cybersecurity, let's take example of a car. Okay, so you have a car, and previously car used to be complete standalone, there is no wires attached to it, right? So it just to commute, that's it. But nowadays the car is all about just connected to everything. So when we have these kind of features enabled in a car, it comes along with the luxury, comes with the risk. Okay, So what exactly we are talking here is like, how we can protect the confidentiality, how we can protect the integrity, and how we protect the availability, right? So that's all about like, we talk about like, so I'll just put it in such a way, like the journey, how it has evolved from pre-internet to Internet of Things, right? So previously we used to be like, human to human communication. We used to have like, it's fixed to mobile telephone. Like, let's say like there is only a telephone, wired telephone, which they used to communicate and all. Slowly the internet came in. There, the email, infotainment, entertainment, information sharing, and everything started from there, right? Then the web 2 came in. Like, the web 2 is all about like how we can take leverage of the internet connection, and how we take leverage of like, the communication systems, and everything started at this phase. Then comes the social media, right? Like, sharing, tweeting, communicating controversies, or like, day-to-day updates, everything. People started sharing their skills, whatnot. Like, previously we used to have only celebrities used to do this. Now each and every person became a celebrity. Like, from there, machine to machine communication happened, where not just human to human, now machine to machine communication is happening right now, where the AI is taking over the human, and it's just building everything, where human himself can't be able to do it. In such case, a human understands how to protect himself, right? But a machine can't understand how to protect itself unless we teach it, right? So what we teach the machine exactly is how to protect the whoever owns that machine, or whatever data owns by the machine, how the machine will protect the data, how it will make sure they protect the integrity, and how it makes sure it is available 24 by 7 to the respective users, right? So that's all. That is what the main difference between human and machine. So who is a hacker? Like, what happens, let's say like, why we need cybersecurity, like, what is why we need security to protect our data, right? So it's kind of a confidential information which belongs to a person or a company, or like, an individual or a company, right? So people who attacks, especially like, cyber side, like we call them hackers, okay? So there are different type of hackers, like, in interest of time, I don't want to get into those. I'm pretty sure most of you already know those terminologies, and what kind of hackers are there, and what kind of attacks they can do and all. So I don't want to get into those things, but I'll just put it in a high level. Okay, so hackers are the one who try to take leverage of the loopholes of a machine, and try to exploit it into, and try to find the vulnerabilities in it, and try to exploit it to gain access to the data, to compromise the integrity, or to bring down the service. So that's what the motive of the hacker. So it can be, the target can be anything, as I said, like, it can be full full established, like, a level 5 companies, or it's individual person, doesn't matter. Like, your confidential data is your own. Like, everyone owns the confidential data, and if you lose that confidentiality, that means you're completely, like, exposed, right? So every person has to make sure they protect themselves, or every company has to make sure they protect their company. So as I said, like, there are different type of hackers who, uh, just like, I'll just put it a very high level, like, white hat hackers or ethical hackers. So white hat, when I said white hat, so these are the hackers hired by the companies to to think, since he's his in his name there is hacker, right? So he thinks like a hacker, but he won't do any harm to the company who hired him. So what he will do is, he will think like a hacker. He will try to find the vulnerabilities before any hacker does, and he try to just report genuinely to the company, submit the report, like, findings, vulnerabilities and all. And that's why, like, mostly these white hat hackers are like, they are just they're in-house in a company. Okay, black hat hackers are the crackers. Let's say, like, whoever do the malicious kind of attacks, whoever tries to exploit a company or individual, they are called black hat hackers. Gray hat hackers are the one, they used to be a black hat hacker, but they turn to be a good hacker. So those are gray hat hackers. They do both if defensive and offensive side. So most governments or these kind of people uses these people to attack some other one but protect themselves. Script kiddies are the one who doesn't know what kind of attack they are doing, but they just try to exploit it. They just throw each and every script onto the till they find a exploit. Sometimes this leads to kind of, let's say, DOS attack, DDoS attack, or like as I said, availability is something which is very important, right? That may impact. So cyber terrorists are the one who just targets the religious politicians, or they are the one who targets uh, these religious things, these are hired by most of the terrorists and all, state sponsored attacks are individual employed by countries to penetrate and gain damage systems to other governments. Okay, so what happening here, right? Let's talk about society. Okay, so society is like every day we are exposing ourselves by uploading our photos, videos, everything, all over the place, right? Now there comes the actual thing, right? Your data, you think like you're putting it on a social media and just getting likes, tweets and everything, but you're not understanding what happening to your data in the real world. Okay, so in the real world that data is e- uh, it helping the people, kind of black hat hackers. You guys are helping them to make their attack very easy by uploading that kind of data. Okay, so let's say your data is like, let's say you have uploaded a lot of videos, you become celebrity, and now if someone wants to attack you, what they will do is they'll search. They'll already there'll be a lot of data available about you. Okay, on social media they'll just search for the dark web and just go to the dark web and try to find what kind of information you already uploaded onto the internet and what kind of information these people have collected, and try to sell them, right? So let's say Zomato got attacked, a lot of GB of data has been hacked, and that data is belongs to us, right? And let's say many companies got, so all these data which got hacked, all these DBs which got compromised, this DB will be sold in the places like the dark web. Okay, so that is a place where you find every kind of all illegal things will happen in these kind of things. That is dark side of internet. Change in mindset. So it's just we need to understand what kind of attacks going to happen, and we need to be very, we need to uh, educate ourselves. Okay, so we need to see what kind of attacks going to happen, what every day we need to follow the news, every day we need to keep update ourselves, and we need to update to the strategies. uh, let's say your phone. Okay, just take example of your phone or your car. Okay, if it is if there is a firmware update and that belongs to some security, then most of the people just ignore it. But that firmware update is very crucial. It will just uh, there are so many attacks will be sold in the dark web, and people wants to attack you. First they will just do is try these attacks instead of just finding a vulnerability in your file. Just try these attacks. If you don't apply this firmware, updated firmware, that means you're compromising yourself, right? So that's that's how you have to change your mindset, and you have to think a hacker and what a hacker can do, and you have to apply those changes to in your real world. Okay, okay. Yeah, so this is all about educating and what happening in normal life, and what happening in elements and all. So I just skip this and just, yeah, this is better one. So it explains the same thing. Okay, in normal law, new normal thing, there is a process and there is a technology, and the technology is used by all the people. Okay, now, so this is fine. This is very normal, right? So what happening here? Let's say now if you don't apply what we are discussing here, what happens is it will each and every. So if let's say one person got compromised, and the others are also using the same technology, and this person, through this person, they were able to get access to that technology, and through that technology again, they get access to each and every person who is connected to that technology. So that's what protecting your assets, right? Yeah. So that's where security comes into picture, right? So every organization has to make sure, just not their organization or they themselves get secure. You have to make sure each and every person or each and every customer, like a client or consumer, whoever is there, those people has to be secured. Okay. Okay, these are the I'll just tell you a few terminologies like attack vector. Attack vector is something it's just a type of attack a attacker tries to perform to compromise the system. Okay, and attack surface. Attack surface is what attack vector he's trying to target. Okay, so let's say your Wi-Fi. Okay, he's trying to see if there is any way he can. That is attack vector. Now, how he can gain access to your Wi-Fi? So that there comes the attack surface. So, and threat actor. Threat actor is the one who's the targeted person. Who is the targeted person? He is the threat actor. Okay, attacker is the one who is trying to attack the threat actor. Vulnerability is the it's kind of a loophole which is present in the system, and exploit is the one a attacker tries to find the vulnerability to exploit that vulnerability and gain access to that system. Payload is something which is used to take control of that vulnerability. Usually attackers will use payloads. Zero day is something zero day vulnerability is nothing but uh, this attack is completely new and no one has ever used it or ever found it, and if you uh, perform this for the first time, that's going to be the zero day, and there is no fix or patch or uh, no one knows about it. So that's zero day, that's completely new, and you're the superhero. All right. I was discussing so far about this slide, right? So what is protecting yourself? Protecting yourself is nothing but protecting the confidentiality, protecting the integrity, availability, authenticity, right? So so what is let's say what is confidentiality? Okay, so confidentiality is nothing but your data. Okay, so let's say your car. Okay, your car, your car uh, SIN number, your car, let's say there is infotainment system. Okay, the MAC address, or you have an app and you connect to that car. Through that app, how you authenticate your credentials, right? And let's say if there is any biometric access, then your key fob. So all these are confidential information, right? And so what is integrity here? So we are integrity is nothing but uh, so yeah, integrity is nothing but, let's say you have some confidential data, and uh, someone has access to it, and let's say he modified that data, and now you are unable to access it. Okay, I mean, so usually people should not have access to the data. If they have access to the data, they should not be able to modify it. If they're able to modify, that's you lost your integrity, right? And availability is all about making the device or system or machine or whatever is available 24/7, so you can access anytime. Okay. In interest of time, people suggested me to go on to automotive slides. So these slides, anyways, they're going to share with you. So you can get back to me anytime if you need any kind of information. Okay, just give me a second. Yeah. Okay. Just a second. Sorry. Oops. Sorry. I just closed everything.
Is everything okay, Shravan?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I just lost access. Just give me a minute. I'm just trying to connect back.
Ah, no problem.
Oh yeah, we were. Okay. Sorry, like I see. Okay.
Ah, we have your screen up again, if that is.
Uh, you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, we are able to see it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just directly jump onto like automotive security. Okay. So before like we talk more about automotive security, and so I want to talk about like automotive the embedded system itself in automobiles. Okay. So I'm pretty sure like like you must have already have done some background, or you must have already know what all will have in a car, right? A car will have ECUs, TCUs, telematic units, HVAC systems, and uh, sorry, like I told you, sorry, yeah, TPMS, infotainment systems, and HUDs. So like the car communicates with other devices like through a protocol called CAN, and through that like the ECU to ECU communication will happen, right? So far, let's say like in the olden days, if you take old cars, so they used to have only EC to ECU communication, and the protocol used to be there. It came very late, but the protocol used to be there, and that's how the communication used to happen. And whenever a person apply brakes and all the information sent to all the ECUs, and the brake used to apply to everything, and the speed everything used to come down. So that's how the everything used to happen. Like there is nothing need to be worried about, like because nothing is connected to nowhere. But now if you see, there are infotainment systems. Okay, there are TPMS, there is like there are lots of connectivities uh, are there to a car, and even like ADAS systems, or like autonomous, like I mean even you have Tesla, you have everything autonomous, right? So what happens if these kind of cars came into market, right? So let's say you are sitting in a complete autonomous car, right? So now driverless car. So that means like you are just giving access to complete access to the car mission, and you're just sitting relaxing. And so here, if you're driving, what the confidence level, like how you can drive, and what kind of, if there is any risk, then you know how to just avoid that risk, or like take immediate decision. So in these kind of scenarios, if you don't take care of those things, then there comes the actual picture, right? Like that's where we talk about like uh, what embedded system, like how X machine communicates with other machine, like and uh, so that's where the entire thing will come in, right? Like how they can be attacked. Okay, so so yeah, I'll just put it pretty straightforward. Okay, uh, so I'll just, so let's say like your car is connected through OTA over the air, okay, and through cloud it's communicating, and through cloud means you're through your app you're sending the commands to the car to, let's say like to lock the car. Through your app you're just sending those commands, and from there it just the car has received it, and from there like it just send the communicate through the protocol, it just communicated with the lock system, and the door got locked. Okay, so in this process, what kind of attacks can be possible? Okay, there are multiple attacks will be possible, right? Let's say like if the over the air is compromised, if your app is compromised, that means if someone else have access to your app, and your app itself is a vulnerable app, then what I'll do is I'll just clone your app, right? I'll just try to see where your database is hosted. I'll try to gain access, or else like if your app, if you have poor credentials, I'll try to just bypass your authentication. Or if app itself is vulnerable, then I'll just clone and I'll upload, and people who bought the car, he will try to download cloned app. And so there are many ways we can perform these attacks. Okay, so once the let's say like somehow we able to gain access to the app, then that means we have full control of the car. That means your car is compromised. Okay, so that's one. And now the cloud. So through cloud, through APIs, the data will be transferred, right? So if you have access to that instance, or if you gain access to that API, that means again the data is compromised, right? Yeah. So third is your car. Now the data is transferred to your car, transmitted to your car, right? Like that you got already received it, and I just put some, let's say uh, a a device, or a malicious device which just be perform as a man in the middle, and whatever communication happens to EC to ECU, I can transfer, I can just intercept them, and I can modify it, and I can just replay it, right? So all these are case, different kind of scenarios. The way the ultimate target is to compromise the car, and there are many possibilities where we can just compromise the car in different ways. Okay, so it's all about how you think, how you, let's say uh, uh, kind of like you have to think like attacker or hacker, and you have to come up with different scenarios, and you have to try all those scenarios and see if there is any way you can compromise, and if there is a way it got compromised, then you can immediately report it. Okay, so that the vendor will or the manufacturer will fix it and immediately releases the patch. Okay, so there are different systems which are there, there like you can take any system in the car, it is vulnerable. Okay, no matter what, no matter who is the manufacturer and what kind of proprietary protocol they use, or no matter how many encryptions they have enabled. Okay, or there is a way to get in, there is always way to get in. Okay, only thing is you have to invest time, and you have to think like a hacker, and you have to keep trying. Okay, yeah. So that's so this is kind of layer structure, you have L1 is hardware layer, L2 is CPU scheduling, L3 is memory management, L4, L5, L6. So we have 6 levels, layer structures. Okay, so what kind of different software vulnerabilities are there? Okay, so we have, let's say let's say there are so many attacks basically, there is man in the middle attack, the DOS attack, or the injections, or replay attacks, or uh, just the list goes on and on. Okay, in this session, it's very hard to cover each and every attack name here, but if you want to know about it, let's say I told you about 0 day, right? If someone finds a 0 day, they will just report that 0 day in common vulnerability CVE, or so whoever reports it, let's say uh, I found a vulnerability in a car, let's say in Tesla, and that is in infotainment system. And in infotainment system, let's say one app is vulnerable, and through that app I was able to gain access to the car. So I will report this vulnerability to the Tesla. Tesla will fix it, and they release a CVE or a CW. So CVE is nothing but common vulnerability exposure, so that everyone will know what is the latest attack and what is the criticality that attack is. So every data, every minute data is available in that website. It's kind of a DB where you can find all kind of vulnerabilities. Okay, and along with the patches. So this is another kind of attack: buffer overflow, stack overflow, heap overflow. So what is this? You can say, let's say your infotainment system. Let's say your phone or something. There is input, user input is there, and that input will take only 5 characters. And if you try to feed 10 characters, it might just say uh, not allowed. 20 characters not allowed. But if you feed 5 lakh characters, what happens? That's where the system won't be able to handle that much of memory or input size. So immediately the system will crash. That is nothing but overflow attacks. So what happens with these kind of overflow attacks are the attacker, it will give an instruction set where exactly the crashes happen, and it will say how much data it can handle, and it will give it will give each and every way for an attacker to get in. So if the error handling isn't properly implemented in a system, then we can attacker will take leverage of it and try to gain access through that. Even these kind of overflow attacks, like where he's getting access to the instruction set, the address itself, the like, and through that instruction set, like he just try to write a simple payload, simple script, and just he will send it. And if system try to execute it, if it is not encoded, or like if it is doesn't care about any kind of encoding or hashing, so it just runs the command. Let's say, like it's a script to just print everything. It will run, it will print everything. So any kind of attack is possible with it. So that's what, like improper input validation. So as I said, like let's say, like you have a user access control. Okay, uh, let's say, like you are a normal user and you have access to that data, but there, for every website there will be always an admin, right? So admin have access to the all the users, or like whoever is the person who register, like he has access to complete application basically. And a common user won't have that level of access. But if you think like a hacker, you can gain access from common level user to admin
Sh
level user. It all depends on how you think.
Shravan, just to quickly, I just wanted to gently remind that there's maybe a couple of minutes left, and then we can have some time for a Q&A at the end, just to let you know. Thanks.
Oh yeah, sure, sure. I mean, we are just very close.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just a minute, sorry. Okay, I'll just see what all I can cover, so that, like, yeah, I'll just cover this. Yeah. So that's what, like if the system failed to validate the input, user input, then it will give access to the admin level access, like to a normal user, which is the high risk. Then improper authentication. Okay, improper authentication, like as I said, like, so this is kind of input validation, and you are gaining access to the high level user, right? Improper authentication is like you're authenticating. Okay, let's say, like you have user ID, and you'll just uh, used your family usernames, or like known usernames, or small characters, or like so these all, like if let's say, like there is no captcha enabled, and attacker, what he will do is he will just do some trial and error methods till he succeeds. Like he will just run some scripts where it keeps running some like lots of iterations till it just gain access to the user account. Okay, so these are all, like if some validations are not in place, then these kind of attacks will can be happen very easily, and they will get access to your systems, right? Then information disclosure, like this is, like sometimes it is critical vulnerability, or sometimes it is a medium level vulnerability, but this is a starting step for leading to critical, or like most uh, critical exploit. Okay, let's say, like the kind of information the application is revealing. Let's say your application is revealing admin username and password. That means, like it's the most critical vulnerability, right? Or like it is revealing some kind of server information, let's say server version. And what we'll do is we'll go to CVE and check, like if there is an existing vulnerability with that version. If there is an existing vulnerability, we will directly apply that exploit, and we'll get access to that, right? So it all depends on, like what kind of information it is revealing, and how well the system is handling the information, right? So improper restrictions of operations, right? So improper restrictions of operations is again, like what kind of, let's say, like as I said, like if the system can handle 10 characters, it should not give more than 10 access to more than 10 characters. And if user is trying to feed n number of characters, it should be able to handle the error properly. It should not lead to any crash. If it is crashed, that means it leads to again overflows. That means again he got access to the registers, right? Like instruction sets, and through that instruction set, he will just try to write some instruction where he can jump from one instruction to the executable instruction, and from there he will just try to execute the command. That's it. Yeah, or else like there is leakage of information. As I said, if your system unable to handle the information or kind of errors properly, then it will leads to leakage of lot of sensitive information. So encryption and authentication. Encryption is kind of a security mechanism. Usually, like any company or any application will try to implement, where like it just makes sure your sensitive data is not revealed, and they make sure like it is protected with proper high level encryption. So that it will make an attacker life hard to decrypt it, and that encrypted data is stored in a secure location. So that's again like it is stored with some sign keys, where like a authentication mechanism is implemented on top of it. If a person has to decrypt it, first he has to authenticate, then through after authentication then he can decrypt it. So it's not that simple, like I just in interest of time I just explained it in a very high level, but this is whole new different world. Yeah, there is a lot you can learn, and this is very interesting subject to learn as well. So types of cryptography, like symmetric and asymmetric cryptography, like how you encrypt and decrypt keys, data, or whatever, right? Like we will use these two kind of cryptographies. Yeah, I think like yeah, we're good.
Thank you so very much for this really amazing lecture, Shravan. It's really interesting. It's I guess that automotive security. It's not something that we think about every day, and we just drive and we do not think of the dangers that exists. So we've just got 1 or 2 minutes just for a couple of quick questions. So please don't forget to put them into the Q&A, and then we can pick some of the good ones. I see someone's actually messaged me privately, so Shravan, if you have a minute left to just answer this one. They ask, it's actually a really interesting question. I really like it. They are asking, how do supply chain vulnerabilities, from like third parties who are of course very involved, I guess, in the automation of vehicles, how do they kind of create risk for like cyber attacks and this type?
Sorry, wait, can you just repeat the question, like
Of course, of course. So how do supply chain vulnerabilities from third parties in the manufacture process, how do they create risk, and what can we do to as in cybersecurity to mitigate the risk?
Oh yeah, so it's all like there is something called SBOM, like a software bill of metrics. So you usually like people who are auditing these suppliers or supply chain, like they usually, like what they do is like they just start with this uh, SBOM, and they'll try to audit it properly, and they get clearance from the vendors and from the manufacturers, and along from uh, the, the company itself. And through that, like they'll try to see if there is any existing versions which are not passed, or like it's just a process they follow to make sure before they onboard anyone, like or if before any approval happens, they'll just go through this process and try to come up with a solution, and they apply that solution, and then the entire thing will just go ahead.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. I know you are very busy, so we'll leave it just for one question for today. But thank you so much, Shravan, and I know this was a little bit last minute for you. It was really interesting. So thank you very much. Just to the students, again, apologies that this was a bit of a shorter session. We do have another later today in half an hour, so get a bit of a snack, get some food or something to drink, The next session is going to be the cyber resilience game with Michel Rademacher. So this is a bit of a special session. So I really hope we see everyone there. Thank you all so much for coming, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.